Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. It's February 21st, and if you're looking for some free science fiction and fantasy books to warm you up this weekend, we have them. Because every single week on Fridays, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of each of the top 5 free fantasy and sci-fi books on Amazon. Today's list includes romances from USA Today bestselling authors, apocalypses, and dinosaurs. So stick around. But before we get to all that, hi everybody, welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar, and today I was helped out by Luciano Lioto and E.S. Foster, and Emma is here with us today. Hi,
Hi.
Emma. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of these videos. And let's skip over the rest of the bookkeeping stuff and get you guys straight into the books, starting with something a little weird that I guess people like. Emma and I were just discussing this before we started recording. So this is Breeder by Cara Bristol. The first of 3 books in the Breeder sci-fi romance series. The other books are $5 each, but they're both in Kindle Unlimited. And the author's a regular on our Free Friday list. And did I mention she's a USA Today bestselling author? Yeah, she is. So, yeah, so Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want. It's a good deal if you read a lot and you don't mind being part of the Amazon hegemony. So this is a sexy book, and it's got some like stuff in it that people wouldn't necessarily fantasize about, wouldn't necessarily want to see in their normal lives, but would fantasize about, right? Because like we all want to have healthy, normal relationships, but what kind of fantasy does that make? Anyway, Emma read this for us. Emma, what'd you think of this book?
So I don't know what you got me into here, but just to preface this, like no judgment. If you like this kind of genre and you read these kinds of books, that's fine. I don't. And so just to be clear, this isn't what I typically read. It's not something I would ever think of reading. So if there was only so much I could get through before I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. So as I expected, it was graphic. The woman in the situation is treated like an animal, like subhuman. So right off the bat, I won't be continuing with it, but let's get into the actual story. So it takes place on this different planet, and of course, it's run by men. And one of them is considered an alpha, so we already have that angle going in as well. And then the main character is alpha is Dax. He goes to this prison. He finds this woman, like he's trying to find a woman to produce an heir for him. So they're literally called breeders, hence the title. And you can imagine how this culture feels about women and like what we were talking about earlier, Maria, where it was like the fact that this is written by a woman is something I especially don't understand because it's like this is all like the dark, twisted stuff that you don't normally think about. But anyway, like the guy in charge of the whole prison scheme, he brings Dax to Amra, who I'm guessing is supposed to be like the loosely like term version of love interest in this story, like whatever you interpret love interest as. So Dax spends most of his time checking to make sure that she's fit for whatever he plans to do to her, which I'm not going to elaborate on, and I'm also not going to think about.
Okay, give
So
us some hints. Is it graphic and sexual?
yes.
Okay, okay, let's go on.
So yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know. But he also notes that Almra is defiant and he plans to discipline her for it. Of course, like at one point he whips her because, she doesn't like being handled, which, I feel. I kind of like Omra because she does manage to bite Dax on the finger. So at least she's fighting back. At least she's not completely submissive. It's like, okay, at least she's got that going for her. So finally, Dax just decides to bite her. And I stop there because I'm not a fan of the genre. I don't even like romance all that much, to be honest, unless it's like a good, wholesome story with mutual respect and sharing people's interests, because like we were talking about Maria earlier, it's like, yeah, that doesn't sell, It's like USA Today best-selling author. It's like it's not going to be a wholesome relationship, likely. You never know. So, but these genres seem to be popular, especially among women, and I'm not sure why because I'm a woman, but I don't go for that kind of thing. So I won't judge whether you decide to pick up this book or not. but I'm not personally recommending it. And I'll leave it at that.
Maybe this is like the way people watch horror movies. So I can't stand to watch horror movies because they scare me, and I
So
don't
I love
like to be
horror movies.
scared. But so you love horror movies?
Yeah, like specific
Okay.
types of horror movies.
All right. So there you go. You enjoy something, maybe you can like viscerally like confront something you're scared of, and it's exciting and dangerous. And then at the end of the day, you can close the book and it's gone. And you're like, phew, I survived. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, like
I
certain types of horror I avoid, but some like psychological horror, I really like stuff like that.
mean, I love books about serial killers.
Yeah, exactly.
I
It's like,
never want to meet a serial killer in my life, but you give me a juicy serial killer book, I'm all over it.
yeah, like I watch Criminal Minds and stuff like that, and it's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the time, all the time. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
People love Twilight. Worst example of relationship ever.
Yeah,
Age
for
difference,
real.
mental health issues, so problematic.
And yet people love it.
He's like 100-year-old guy pretending to be a teenager,
I
creeping around
know.
high school. Who does that?
And again, it's written by a woman,
Yeah, because women know what women like, I guess.
I
I
guess.
liked it. Anyway, so we've got something very different next. A little palate cleanser, if you will, before we go right back into this genre again. Let me pull that up for you guys. Here we go. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So this is The Bone Trap by Tormod Cockburn, the first of 9 books in the Mysterious Scotland sci-fi mystery series. From the description, I get the sense that this is kind of like an X-Files kind of situation. The other books are $3 to $5 each, but they are all in Kindle Unlimited. The last book isn't out yet. It's scheduled to be released in March and is available for pre-order. And Luciana Aliotto read this for us since she couldn't make it here today. She was here last Friday, and she says she'll try to make it next Friday. But anyway, she's not here today. So Emma's going to read this for us. And Emma, what did Luciana think of this book?
I find it interesting that you say X-Files because when Luciana reviewed this, she said that it was actually hard to establish the genre of this novel. So she does think that there is mystery in it. So she says it's worth checking out because of the mystery. She really liked the mystery. She thought it was good. So the book apparently starts off with a couple of prologues. It introduces us to like the adventure of the article, like the novel, and then it does a good job of sort of like weaving the plot in right from the start, which is something that Luciana really liked. She said that there was a murder involved, a research breakthrough. So eventually we're introduced to the main character, Gil. So he is the professor at the University of St. Andrews, and he seems to be at a low point in his life because not much is going on, like going his way. He's somehow compromised his academic career progression, and the love of his life, like his marriage and everything, is sort of on the rocks. We then meet him when he further pursues like another more unfortunate thing happening in his life. He has not been selected for something important that he has applied for. I think it's something academic related, I'm not really sure. But his mentor can't pull the strings to undo like his past mistakes. So instead, he refers Gil to this gig. It doesn't necessarily align with his research goals, but he then heads off to investigate this skull and to figure out like what mysterious creature this skull belongs to. And apparently it's connected to a murder, which also sounds intriguing. So it's kind of like if you discovered the skull of like the Loch Ness monster, but it killed somebody or something. That's what
That's
I
why
was
I'm
thinking.
thinking X-Files. That's
Yeah.
exactly that sounds exactly like you'd see in the premise of an X-Files episode.
Yeah, so like Luciana really liked this. She said that the descriptive language conveyed everything in such a way that it felt like you were right there and you were watching everything, like on the train, on the ferry, wherever. You were seeing everything. And even if it was just the first few chapters Luciana read, she said it was very well researched and it had this really great writing style that she likes. So she's immediately going to put this on her TBR, her read list.
All right, let's move on back into weird, sexy stuff. Okay. And let me make that a little bigger for you guys. The cover does not do this book justice, um, because there is a romance going on there, and there's an EMP kind of apocalypse, and that's not usually the kind of cover we see for either of those books. So anyway, this is Fragile Threads by J.B. Landrey, the first of 3 books in the Ties That Bind, a post-apocalyptic romance series. The other books are $4 each, but they are both in Kindle Unlimited. And so I read the beginning of this one. And Abigail is a 3rd grade teacher, a single mom with a 6-month-old son. Something happened to the son's dad. Seems like something tragic, but I haven't learned yet what. She lives in a city surrounded by skyscrapers and wishes for small town life. And she's a really nice person. She brings food to the homeless and helps them out. And she has a particular interest in Blake, a veteran who lives in a tent camp with only his dog for company. And he's an alcoholic who's, it looks like he's suffering PTSD because his entire team has been killed and he's suffering from survivor's guilt. And then in the next chapter is told from Blake's point of view, where he can't figure out what this woman is doing here, and so he drinks. So the points of view keep switching back and forth, which is why I'm thinking that this is going to be a romance story, because we got a male protagonist and a female protagonist, and the point of view keeps going back and forth. So we learn more about their relationships. Abigail with her ex's parents, or maybe her former husband's parents. Feels maybe he's dead again. It's not clarified. And they want her to move closer to them so they can see their son more often, and there's some tension in their relationship. And then Blake has problems with one of the other homeless people in the tent city. And the homeless people are talking about how the end of the world is coming and that there's going to be an EMP attack that takes out all electronics and civilization will come crashing down. And for some reason, he's paying attention to this, which makes me think that that's what the apocalypse here is going to be, an EMP attack. And this is a super popular genre. People love these books. We often have EMP books on our Free Friday list. So anyway, this book moves slowly at the beginning. I'm 7 chapters in, and there's still no apocalypse happening. Not that I really wanted to start. But the book is readable. Both Abigail and Blake are compelling characters. I'm interested in how Abigail will resolve the tension with her son's grandparents, and whether Blake can get a handle on his drinking and his survivor's guilt. So this is kind of a slow-paced, emotional story, at least from what I've read so far, with an apocalypse looming over them. So if you like that kind of pacing and that kind of story, you might enjoy this one. I am not sticking with it though, because I like my escapist reading to be a little less like reality. Maybe that's just me, but I'm moving on from this book. And the next book is also an apocalyptic book, Rescued by Bears by Skye MacKinnon. The first of 3 books in the Claiming Her Bears reverse harem paranormal romance series. The other books are $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. And the author, again, is a USA Today best-selling author. So again, people love these books. So again, my usual disclaimer, not my genre. We really need somebody to help us out who loves these books. I know these people are out there. You're out there. You love these books. Drop us a line. Tell us you want to review books, and we'll get you started, because we really need somebody who appreciates these books for what they are, who can tell people what makes them good, right? So anyway, so there's been an apocalypse 13 years ago. The sea levels rose faster than expected. London and New York sank, followed by Berlin and Mumbai. And for some unexplained reason, society got thrown back to the Middle Ages. There are no more universities or banks or computers. Girls now have to marry at 14, and they're supposed to have as many children as possible. And really brutish men are in charge. So that's the kind of setup here. And in the first chapter, we meet Isla, who lives on an island in what used to be Scotland. Her parents are dead, and her evil uncle is in full control of her life, and he's about to marry her off to one of the worst men on the island. And apparently the island is just full of really, really bad, horrible, violent men. And it's the middle of winter. The water around the island is frozen. So desperate, she walks out on the ice and just keeps walking, almost freezes to death, until she reaches land again and collapses. When she wakes up, she's warm and alive in a wooden house wrapped up in furs next to a roaring fire. Then a hot guy comes in. His name is Finn, and he tells her that he and his friends found her on the beach, and she tells him her story. And then she sees a big brown bear through the window and screams. The bear runs away, and Finn tells Isla that the bears aren't dangerous. Then another big, hot, muscular guy comes in. They feed her, she goes back to sleep, and when she wakes up again, she's in the attic. And she's about to go downstairs when she hears the men talking. They're discussing whether she suspects anything about who they really are and about how long they can stay in their human forms without shape-shifting back into bears. And so each one of them can only handle a few hours of being human at a time, and they're trying to figure out these logistics so that she doesn't suspect what's going on. And Isla, when she hears this, is absolutely terrified. She thinks they're going to eat her, which is a reasonable response. So she climbs out the window and jumps off the roof, breaks her ankle. And so that's the premise. Isla is trapped on an island with hot, sexy bears. Very sexy. And they're nice to her and listen to her and feed her, unlike her uncle and the other men on her home island. And so I'm going to bet good money that she's going to fall in love with all of them, and they're going to settle down to some kind of weird group thing, which I think is a safe bet because the phrase reverse harem romance is right there in the book's subtitle. And reverse harem is where a woman has to choose between a bunch of men, and instead of choosing, she just picks all of them. She's like, yeah, I'll take them all. So I guess that's a fantasy women have. I think it would be very practical in real life. Men are such babies. But like we were talking about before, like when it comes to fantasizing about stuff, you don't want to fantasize about healthy, normal relationships. You want
Yeah, exactly.
something forbidden, sexy, unusual, right? Bears. Why not? So yeah, this promises to be pretty sexy. Okay, before we get to book number 1, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. So at MetaStellar, we publish free science fiction and fantasy short stories on our website every week. We had several new ones up this week. Check it out. We have a newsletter that goes out every Friday you can subscribe to so you can get them in your email. And we pay our authors thanks to the support of our Patreon contributors. And all of us editors are volunteers, including me and Emma. So all the money raised goes to authors, emerging authors of science fiction and fantasy. So if this is something you would like to support, please join our tribe or subscribe to the channel. Or you can buy one of our anthologies, all linked down below. This is the best stories of every year from the first 3 years of MetaStellar. We're doing the 4th year anthology now. Emma's heading that up. We've also just finished serializing Gods and Monsters, which is an awesome novel. It was the featured book this week in the SFWA website. That's the Science Fiction Writers Association. So that's pretty awesome. The author, E.E. King, has several books that she's written and like hundreds of short stories. Her work has been praised by Red Bradbury, Harlan Ellison, Margaret Cho, the New York Journal of Books, LA Weekly. I mean, she's just an awesome writer, won tons of awards, and we're so happy to have serialized her novel. And it's available in both print and electronic form from all major bookstores. And we also have like notepads and mugs you can buy to support our channel. And we would appreciate it very much if you do. And also, Emma is a book coach and editor, and you can actually hire her. And at my day job, I'm a technology journalist, but I also write books, and they're on Amazon. And right now they're at 99 cents because Amazon messed up the pricing, but they should be back to free very shortly. So you can check those out. And they are free on Barnes& and Noble and other bookstores. All right. So, book number one on today's list. I promised you dinosaurs, and dinosaurs you're going to get. This is Stranded by Shawn Inmon, the first of three books in the Lost Eden Portal Fiction Adventure series. The other books are $5 each, and they're not on Kindle Unlimited. The last book isn't out yet. It's scheduled to be released in March, and you can't pre-order it. So a portal fantasy or a portal adventure is where somebody goes through a portal, like a Stargate or some kind of a doorway into another dimension, something like that. So Emma read this for us. Emma, what did you think of this book?
I only recently got into like prehistoric fiction, like Anne McGaffrey, if you know her as an author and read some of her books. She does some prehistoric fiction stuff and like
I did
mixes it
not
with
know that.
sci-fi. Yeah,
I
she
only
mixes it
thought
with
of her as the
sci-fi.
Dragons of Pern lady.
Yeah. So I was excited to read this one because I've been really excited to read that one as well. I really like Anne McCaffrey. So it begins with two brothers, Ben and Barney, and there's this guide with them, and they're in some sort of giant cave. So they come across a dinosaur and it prepares to attack because it feels threatened. It's implied that like the her babies are nearby and she wants to fight. So Ben and Barney prepare to shoot. They pull out their guns and they're ready to shoot. So then it cuts to 1 week earlier, and Ben is in Uruguay. And despite all the dangers of the wildlife around him, he's happy to be in the middle of nowhere. He spends a lot of time putting his numerous PhDs to good use, like he names all the scientific names for all the plants and the animals that go by and stuff like that. So suddenly he gets a phone call, and it's his brother Barney. He explains that he has something that Ben would be interested in seeing, but it's also in Fairbanks, Alaska. So he's sending a helicopter to get him. Ben isn't too thrilled about the idea because he likes being in the remote corners of the world. He likes being left alone, which I feel for. And so after a hike, he makes it to where a helicopter is waiting and he begins a journey to Alaska. And also, side note, I have no idea how far helicopters typically travel, but that seems like a huge distance. I just suspend my disbelief a little bit for that one. So Ben
Well,
makes it to Fairbanks.
maybe the helicopter just took him to the nearest airport.
I don't know. That's like I didn't see it imply like he landed there.
Maybe they skip over that part.
Yeah.
Maybe the helicopter just picked him up out of the jungle and dropped him at the airport. He took a regular flight.
Yeah, I don't know because it mentions that he didn't bring like he didn't have a change of clothes because he just went straight to Fairbanks. So like
Huh.
I don't know if he'd stopped at an airport because if
That's
he'd
true. If
stopped at
he
an
was at an
airport,
airport, he could have like bought a t-shirt or something.
yeah.
Good point.
So like he makes it to Fairbanks and he's reunited with Barney and they enter this strange building. And then Barney introduces him to the guy from before and then takes him to this cage. So inside this cage is like this stuffed dinosaur. It's like, taxidermy type of thing. And it reminds me of like a pterodactyl, but it's not quite the same. It doesn't fit the description, and it's also like there's also evidence that it was only recently killed, like a few years ago, type of thing. So Ben doesn't believe any of this is real. He's like, okay, you probably just were duped into spending the last year money thinking that this is real, and it's just some fake taxidermy thing. But Barney shows him one last thing, and it's this giant telescope that points to a wormhole. So this is where the portal comes from. It looks like this is the gateway to this lost world filled with all these weird dinosaurs. So I really like the concept of this story, especially the fact it introduced like new kinds of dinosaurs. It introduced more traditional sci-fi element with the wormhole. So like what you were talking about with Stardate. So I really like that. And I think I might stick with the story to see what happens. See like how they use the different genres. It seems like they're bending them a little bit.
All right. Okay, so pick up a copy of the book and the others. Let us know in the comments what your favorites are. Leave a heart or leave a heart emoji if you like the sexy stories. And one last bit of news. We have begun the serialization of our next novel this month, this week, Renna's Crossing by Geordie Morse. The first installment is up, and Geordie Morse is also reading the story out loud for our channel, and I'll plop the link to that video somewhere up above our heads. All right, thanks everybody for joining us. Like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of these, because we bring you free books every single Friday. Thanks everybody. Thanks Emma, and we'll see you all guys next week.
Hi.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.